The party told you to reject the evidence of your eyes and ears. It was their final, most essential command. Hello, welcome to my channel, Re-Vera. My name is Steve. What's up, fam? Crazy times going on. But I want to talk about that quote from George Orwell, 1984, and how it's relevant today, so you guys can understand what you're seeing more and more of. We've been seeing it the entire Trump presidency. This is a defining feature of fascism, and I want to explain why. Right from the very beginning, when he said he had the largest inauguration crowds ever, when he clearly didn't. He was telling his supporters to reject the evidence of their eyes and ears. And it's been working. So this is hard to understand. Like, if you sound off in comments if you've read 1984. It is a freaking weird book. I was sitting on my porch the night before last reading 1984 in violation of curfews, because it was my front porch, and listening to shots and explosions go off, and reading 1984. Very surreal experience. But it is a weird freaking book. Basically, the authoritarian government that's in control dictates reality, basically, because they routinely change facts, and then the Ministry of Truth goes through all available records everywhere and changes the facts and history to line up with what the party is currently saying. So you'll see on TV, like 1 week, one fact, and then the next week they'll contradict that fact, and you won't be able to find reference to the first fact anywhere. And so the quote encapsulates a lot of the book, because that was what was going on. The party told you to reject the evidence of your eyes and ears. It was their final, most essential command. It seems crazy and fictional when you read it in the book, but it's based in reality. Why does that happen? Well, I want to explain that, because this has been happening throughout history, and it's a very powerful tactic that should not be underestimated. And you all need to understand where it's coming from. And you all need to understand that more logic and more facts doesn't help when people have this mindset. So as an example, in the early double digits and triple digits of our current year system, there was a bunch of weird cultists preaching crazy shit that nobody in Rome believed, and they thought they were crazy, and they mocked them. There's memes that have survived from the Romans mocking Christians. And, they believe that their Savior died, was resurrected. If you don't believe that, you're going to burn in hell for all eternity. And there's a lot of different sects of it. Like, the modern idea of Christianity that we understand was just one of them. If you study ancient Christianity, it's wild how much different they all were. But they were all viewed as kind of crazy, like a cult today. Because they were preaching crazy stuff that nobody could possibly verify. That's the key thing. Crazy stuff based on nothing that you've ever seen before, and you have no possible way to verify it, but you're supposed to believe it. And yet, that took over the known world. To this day, Christianity pretty much rules the world. It's the world's largest religion. So don't underestimate this. It works. Why does it work? What are we talking about? It's a really fascinating thing. I've studied it a lot myself, because it's a brain fuck. That it's just like, how does this work? A couple of decades ago, I forget a lot of the specific details because I'm freaking driving right now, so maybe I can put them in a comment if y'all are curious. But a couple decades ago, there was this cult that had just started up. There was 20 people. I think it was in Chicago or something. And they were going around preaching that the end of the world was coming on a specific date. They had the date, they had the exact time. The world's ending, and if you don't join us, you will not be saved. It was, some kind of aliens are going to blow up the earth, but they're going to teleport us all up to safety. And the leader of the cult claimed to be in communication with them, right? So she would like go into a trance state and write stuff and babble and, you know, whatever. And they thought that was that. And what makes this interesting, because obviously this has happened a bunch of times. Christians, Mormons, Jehovah's Witnesses, pretty much every religion has made specific dated prophecies that didn't come true. And yet people still follow the religion. So two psychologists were like, this is an awesome opportunity. And they joined the cult. You know, didn't say who they were, why they were there. They just kind of joined their wallpaper. They didn't try to steer things any which way. They just listened, mostly. And they wanted to see what happened when the prophecy didn't come true. Okay? So when the final day came along, and they were counting down to midnight, which was when it was supposed to happen, everybody was like nervous and fidgety, and the last hour is like almost total silence. And then the time came, and there's a little bit of excitement leading up to it, and then died down, and then fidgeting, and nothing happened. And there's just silence dragged on till finally, like hours or minutes later, people starting to look nervous. And then the leader of the cult starts twitching again, and another message from the alien or whatever comes out and changes the date, says, y'all, we're not worthy yet, we're going to come back in a year, whatever have you. And that was that. And this is where it gets really weird, because before that, most of the cult members were not super loyal. Like, they, you know, it was a curiosity, they were coming, they weren't really out there proselytizing. But after this event, out of the 20 people, I think like 2 people quit out of 20, not very many, and the rest became die-hard missionaries out there proselytizing every day. You would think after having your prophecy so publicly fail, and this was in like the newspapers, people knew about it, having your prophecy publicly fail, you would think would hurt their movement, right? But no, instead it made them stronger. Why is this? Why does this happen with these religions and political movements and fascism? It's tribalism. So if you look up the 5 foundational values, you'll get some stuff from Haidt. And liberals typically believe in maximizing well-being, minimizing suffering. You can use different terms for it, but that's pretty much it. Whereas I can't park here. Whereas conservatives typically value in-group authority and purity just as much. And those 3 things, if those 3 things aren't bad themselves, they're actually beneficial values in a lot of contexts. But the core problem is they cannot be foundational values. They need to be justified first in well-being and harm, otherwise they're not legitimate, and they lead to tremendous harm. Without being grounded in well-being first, those 3 values become the values of evil. Like almost all atrocity in the world comes to those 3 values being treated as foundational above well-being. And that's what tribalism is. And what is fascism but weaponized tribalism? So why does this work? How does this work? Basically, in a nutshell, when you value in-group loyalty, and you're in a group of people who value that, and like over half the people, like half of humanity, values tribalism quite a lot. Tribalism goes very deep. It's one of our deepest biases, because that's how we evolved. Like, our greatest threats were other tribes, and you had to be loyal to your tribe. Loyalty to your tribe was extremely beneficial, even necessary for survival for hundreds of thousands and millions of years. So it goes very deep. Do not underestimate it. There's a lot of people who value loyalty to in-group. And there's a lot of ways to show loyalty to your in-group. And some of them are healthy. But it goes too far when the tribal authority starts saying things that aren't true. A lot of times people show their loyalty by believing it anyway, basically. You know, you have Scientology, and you wonder, how do these people believe this crazy shit? You have so many different religions and sects and cults, and you're like, how do people believe this? But they believe something that they should know is false because it shows loyalty to the in-group, and they'll defend it no matter what. This is why when people are in this mode where they're denying the evidence of their eyes and ears, they're denying critical thinking, and they're just, you know, not being intellectually honest, you have to stop trying to win them over with facts and logic, because it's not going to work. I mean, if it's in a public setting and you want to rep your stance and show people who might be on the fence how reasonable it is, you know, absolutely. I debate all the time. I don't think it's a bad thing, but you're really not changing people's minds when you're doing that, because they've been trained to deny the evidence of their eyes and ears. Trump is currently, like, this has escalated to an absurd point. Was it yesterday? I'm losing track of time. Trump gassed a bunch of peaceful protesters so he could walk across the street and take photo op in front of a church with a Bible in his hand, because Trump bunker was trending, and people were making fun of him for being a coward. So he gassed peaceful protesters during the day, legal, weren't violating a curfew, nothing. Gassed them, moved them out of the way with tear gas so he could take a photo op. Shortly after, the park police told some media that, no, that's actually not true. They cleared the protesters because they were getting violent, and they did not use tear gas. And conservatives all over the country started sharing that and saying, you stupid liberals are wrong. I saw that all over the place. I got into arguments with people over it personally. That's telling us to deny the evidence of our eyes and ears. It's not a fucking coincidence they cleared the crowds before the President of the United States walked across the street where the crowds had been. If you believe that, you're denying the evidence of your eyes and ears. He's the President of the United States of America. People forget that because he's, you know, the incompetent buffoon and clown that he is. But he's the most powerful man in the world. They do not ever allow unscreened people within eyeshot of the fucking president. Are you serious? If Trump announces his intention to walk across the street on short notice, which we know he did, they're going to clear the protesters, whether it violates their constitutional rights or whatever. Secret Service ain't going to lose another president if they can goddamn well help it. We're supposed to believe it was just a fucking coincidence the crowds got cleared minutes before Trump walks across the street. Get the fuck out of here. That's crystal clear, cold cut, denying the evidence of your eyes and ears. Another example, Trump calling Antifa a terrorist organization. And conservatives defending that shit. Saying, oh, well, Antifa's violent. Well, guess what? If they're violent, if they break the law, you can prosecute them. That you don't have to make the whole group terrorists to do that. Why didn't he call fascism a terrorist organization? Well, because fascism isn't an organization. Neither is Antifa. Well, because fascism isn't well defined. Neither is Antifa. The fact is, calling Antifa a terrorist organization cannot possibly have, like, ask people, what benefit is there to calling Antifa a terrorist organization? Conservatives should get this one because they've argued against hate crimes forever, saying it's already a crime. You can prosecute the crime, which is invalid because the reason you call it a hate crime is so that the feds investigate the crime instead of racist local authorities. So that's irrelevant. But the argument without that extra variable would be valid. And so they should understand this reasoning. If Antifa breaks the law, you can prosecute them. You can arrest them. But you don't need to call all of everybody opposing fascism terrorists. Like that. This is cold cut denying the evidence of your eyes and ears and selling our constitutional freedoms down the drain. So what can you possibly do when people have bought into this cultish mindset? They're denying the evidence of their eyes and ears. There's no reasoning with them. What can you do? I mean, there's not an easy answer to that if you're hoping for one. Uh, your choices pretty much are debate them and make them look stupid, uh, if there's enough of an audience to where that could be beneficial. Uh, you can ignore them, block them for your own mental health because you're not going to convince them. If it's somebody you care about, and I have family who fall into this, the only way you could possibly convince them is to constantly remind them that you are part of their tribe. Love is the only thing that breaks down these barriers. You have to remind people of how much you have in common with them and show love and solidarity with them and understanding. And you can't do this on the internet. Like, don't go out there trying to be nice to fascists on the internet. It doesn't fucking work, all right? I'm not saying that. Because online, none of it comes through as genuine. It's just gonna embolden them, if anything. Fuck that. Don't be nice to fascists online. Either ignore them or debate them, but don't be nice to them. But in person, where people can actually build real rapport, real community, that's your opportunity to break through to fascists. Because you build rapport, you show them how you like some of the same things, and you're both people, and you love and respect them. And after you've built a sense of common identity, sometimes then you can get some seeds of doubt through. Sometimes then you can be like, I mean, this is what you're told to believe, but this is what your eyes show you. Like, once you've broken through, once you've built rapport, once they're starting to see you as their tribe, don't start an argument, don't start a long debate. You just want the most crystal clear, black and white, best, most rhetorically strong example you can find of them denying their evidence of their eyes and ears to try to plant a seed of doubt. That's your best bet to change people's hearts and minds. I've seen a lot of psychological studies on this. They've done studies on what it takes to change people's minds, and people have a lot more success when you build up their sense of identity outside of the thing that you're debating them on. So if you're going to talk to somebody about the modern conservative fascist movement and Trump, you build rapport by building up their sense of identity around everything else. Wow, you're such a great gardener. This is fantastic. What made you think to trellis your tomatoes like that? Oh my God. You know, oh, you like hunting, fishing, so do I. I love the outdoors. I went up the mountain and I blah, blah, blah. You build their sense of identity in other areas because it lessens their sense of identity on that one thing. Because this is part of tribalism, is your sense of identity becomes wrapped up with the labels and the authority figures in that movement. You need to help people see that they are more than just a Republican. They are more than just a conservative. They are more than just a Trump supporter. So build their sense of identity. Talk about what you have in common. Talk about shared values. And only then can you try to plant a seed that might take root. You're not going to convince somebody in one conversation. But if they see you as a friend and you can keep that relationship and you can plant seeds, that's going to be the best you can do. And this isn't for everybody. There's a lot of family and loved ones who are just downright abusive, and all you can do is cut ties or protect yourself the best you can. So I'm not saying to try to win everybody, but if there's somebody you deeply care about and you want to win them, that's going to be your best bet. So anyway, this is a subject I'd love to discuss more. It's super duper important. It gets more and more important the more Trump and the GOP is telling us to ignore the evidence of our eyes and ears. So anyway, love to hear your comments. Love to talk to anybody who wants to talk, whether publicly or privately. Just let me know. I have my information. You can DM me. We can talk, whatever. So thanks. Stay safe. And get out there on the freaking streets, man. It's up to you whether you want to risk yourself and get arrested and possibly hurt protesting after curfews. I'm a little torn on that. We had a stream with Theory Plebe and Blaze yesterday, and we discussed that a little bit. I don't know that it's necessarily helping, and it is definitely dangerous. But for goddamn sure, we should all be protesting during the day if you can at all. before work, after work, a little bit, or just go to work or lunch break. Like, we got to show solidarity. We got to keep the pressure up. Uh, every time they do violence against peaceful protesters during the day, it's an unambiguous win. It shows that police brutality is a problem. But violence, looting, property destruction, scary stuff during the night, that scares people. And psychological studies have proven when you scare people, they become more conservative. So don't scare people conservative. If you see people instigating stuff, try to stop them if you can safely. So anyway, stay safe, stay strong. Let's keep the pressure on. Love y'all.